Order, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. You can be seated. All right. Welcome, everyone. First item of business is approval of the agenda, and I will move that. Second. Motion by Bittinger, second by Nelson. Any discussion, comments, questions? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion passes 5-0. Items 2 through 5 constitute a consent agenda of routine action items to be considered by one motion. Items pass unanimously unless a separate vote is requested by a board member. Item 2, approval of the minutes from April 1st, 2025 meeting. Approval of the minutes from April 1st, 2005 proposed tax levy special meeting, and then the approval of the minutes from April 1st, 2025 closed session. Number 3 is approval of claims. Number 4 from Human Resources, Melissa Thomas, approval of memorandum of personnel transactions, and the presentation of award certificate to Virgil Bremer. Number 5, from Secondary Roads, Laura Severs, it's A, approval of permit to work in the county right-of-way for flock safety. And item B is approval of resolution for the annual weed destruction order. And with that, I'm going to make one motion amendment. I want to make an amendment to separate out number 5A, the approval of permit to work in the county right-of-way for flock safety. We just received some updated information, and Laura's going to give us some updates on that. And so I'll make a motion just to separate that out to be considered after the approval of the consent agenda. So,
I'll second.
okay. Motion by Bittinger, second by Dietrich. All in favor on that, say aye.
Aye.
All right. I'll move the consent agenda.
I'll second it for a second there. I thought you had an issue with the destruction of primary noxious weeds, so I'm glad that that is not the case.
Motion by Bittinger, second by Nelson for the approval of the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passes 5-0. All right, we're not at our approved, at our set time for the 4:35 hearing. So, Laura, do you want to come up and just give us an update on this approval of permit to work in the county right away for the flock safety? Can you see your microphones on? Thank you.
Flock safety is a camera system that has been requested by Sergeant Bluff PD to put in the county right-of-way. They use this, I assume, for their purposes of public safety. The permit that was filled out was a work on right-of-way permit. That is definitely what the company Flock would need to put it in our right-of-way. But we also have the next step of figuring out, can they put it in our right-of-way? And by means of, we purchase and DOT purchases property for highway purposes, and then, you know, on top of that, we can do utility permits by code into our right-of-way. That's not a highway purpose, but Iowa code allows utilities to be in the right-of-way. It doesn't necessarily, I don't feel, cover this. So I reached out to Joshua, and he said, yeah, it probably doesn't cover it. So one of the locations that Flock would like to put, well, Sergeant Bluff PD would like to put a camera is it's called Old US 75, which was purchased by Iowa DOT with a deed. So that property, I feel like, is the ownership of the Board of Supervisors. The other location, we have highway and highway right-of-way for the purpose of highway purposes by easement. So what I'm curious is you know, I don't know if this would be a highway purpose. And I would, either the board needs to decide that, or, you know, your attorney needs to decide that, and then they would need to move forward if that's how you guys would want to proceed, that they would maybe need to get, if you want this in your right-of-way, that landowner might need to give approval also of this.
Okay. All right. With that, we're at our 4:35 set time, so we'll come right back to you. Thank you for that introduction, and then we'll come right back to that. Item number 6 is from Board Administration, Heather Van Sickle. It's the public hearing and sale of property parcel ending in 2003, AKA 1814 West 4th Street. With that, I will move to open up the public hearing for that. And so, with that, if anyone wants to come speak for or against the sale of this property, please come forward to the mic and if you want to speak for it or against the sale of this property.
Seeing none, Mr. Chair, I move that the public hearing be closed.
All right, I'll second that. So motion by Nelson, second by Binger to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion, passes 5-0. All right, with that, we'll take bids now. The minimum bid is $1,154, so please come to the microphone, state your name and your bid. The minimum bid starting is $1,154, so please come forward and
Hello, I'm Callan Cummings, and I'd like to submit $1,154.
all right. How do you spell your last name?
What's that?
How do you spell your last name?
Cummings.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. All right, is there anyone else here to bid on the property?
Mr. Chair, I move that the property be sold to Callan Cummings for the amount of $1,154.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, motion by Nelson, second by Dietrich. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, and you can please see Heather in the back, and thank you very much. All right, coming back to item 5A from the consent agenda. So go ahead, Heather. Excuse me.
So my question for the board is how would you like us to proceed?
Well, I think like you do, with the easement, you're right, that we may not have a say that that's an appropriate thing to install within that easement. So I think for that, and I think that Joshua, if we could review that, it may be okay, it may not be. On the one that is our property, I have no problem, moving forward on that, but I think the one with the easement, we definitely would need to do more due diligence on.
Yeah, and I'm comfortable saying right now, where we only have the road easement, I don't think that we have, the board has authority to give the initial permission for it to be there. If the company secures that from the landowner, then a permit to work in the right-of-way for the installation of it, and the fact that it's gonna continue to be in the right-of-way, they'd still have to come to the county for that. But whether it can be in that location or not, I think that's between Flock and the adjoining property owner.
Okay. So Laura, which address is the one that we own? Can you remind us which one?
Sorry, I don't,
I think it's the old Highway
yeah,
75 one.
it says
Okay.
Old Highway
Yes.
75, I don't have the,
Okay.
It's the south of Sergeant Bluff, and as Laura indicated, it was originally a state highway DOT project, and then the county later acquired the deed to that.
this is on Old Highway 75, just south of Old Lakeport Road
Okay.
is the one that, we have the deed for that highway. The other one is 210th Street, and that's what we have by easement,
Okay. Yeah, I see the street number here is
or
2230 Old Highway 75 is
Yeah.
that we have rights to, or right away to. Okay.
Well, I would move approval of a permit to work in the right-of-way along Old Highway 75, south of Old Lakeport, for flock safety.
Okay.
A second.
All right, there's a motion by Nelson, second by Dietrich. With this, I'll vote, and then against this, I've got some concerns from a surveillance standpoint, but I do understand the goal of what these do, the license plate readers. But, so with that, it's motion by Nelson, second by Dietrich. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. All right, all opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Nay. Motion does not pass. The nays have it. All right, so that motion.
I didn't catch the voices in
Oh,
those
sure.
nays.
The
if you
affirmatives
could-
were Nelson and Dietrich. And the nays were Ung, Bittinger, and Carper.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you recommend that maybe Sergeant Bluff PD or more information from Flock, or just tell them it didn't pass and they can decide what they want to do? I just wonder if they're gonna ask me.
Sure.
It's open.
I mean, I'm open if they want to.
I was just asking. I'm not
Yeah,
asking
yeah.
if you guys have want,
Okay.
just if there's any direction you want me to give them.
Let me
I
think
will.
about that, and I'll get with you after the meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. All right, with that, moving on to item number 7 from Building Services, Kenny Smits. A is authorization to temporarily relocate state clerk employees to the courthouse 3rd floor. Kenny?
Kenny Schmitz, Building Services Director. Yes, this agenda item is to address the repairs needed in the courthouse first floor clerks area. It would require that state staff all be relocated to the 3rd floor. Where we currently have some space to do so. I'm looking for approval on the quotes that we've gotten. One in particular that you may notice is Sioux City Tree and Pro Painting. While they didn't appear to be the lowest painting bid in the overall scope, they really are. The reason for that is they have included in their scope of painting services an artist to do the restoration of the golden scroll painting that are at the top of the columns. The other painting firms did not do that. And so that is why we suggest that we choose Pro Painting to accomplish that task. Requesting $80,723.08. And glad to answer any questions you might have.
All right, any questions from the board on that? All right, I'll move item A, authorization to temporarily relocate state clerk employees to the courthouse 3rd floor.
Second?
All right, motion by Bittinger, second by Carper. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0. Item B is approval of project quotes in the amount of $80,723.08. So any questions for Kenny on this one? Pretty straightforward. Kenny, how long, did it say how long the work will take? Do you have any-
It does not.
Okay.
If the board approves this evening, I'll reach out to all the contractors. This is a project that's going to require one contractor to set up, complete their work, tear down, and then bring another contractor in. So there's going to be multiple phases here.
Gotcha.
And so I'll need to work with their schedules, try to work with their schedules and formulate a overall plan.
Okay. All right, I'll move the approval of the project quote for $80,723.08.
Second.
All right, motion by Bittinger, second by Nelson. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Kenny. All right, number 8 from Secondary Roads, Laura Severs. It's approval of revisions to Woodbury County entrance permit and policy.
Hello. All right, so I have requested the board to relook at our driveways and entrance policy and permit. In essence, what I'm asking for in this policy and procedure memorandum is a restructuring of us no longer doing driveway permits, or us doing the permitting process, but us not physically doing the work of the entrances. It's just coming to that there are a lot of entrances that need to be added throughout every single year, and we don't mind that. It's good for those people that have those access issues. The concern comes in is that we don't have enough time to do it. We're either taking away from hauling gravel, or we should be, taking care of some of our drainage issues and things like that that are in the right-of-way that don't serve a singular purpose like an entrance permit does. So it's not that I wouldn't like to continue to do this. I think we probably put in driveways the best, but this policy would also allow, our private companies that are located right here in Woodbury County to do that type of work instead of us. In your packets, I did run this policy through zoning and the attorney's office, and they found some minor changes, and I can point those out to you, and then I was wondering if you would accept a new a policy and procedure, and then the permit of just what it looks like. But the changes I have is, under new entrance, I had some wrong bullet points, so I clarified that, just saying that on the granular surface road, we don't want a paved driveway coming all the way up to a granular road. It doesn't really work. And then on the materials, I had said that they needed to purchase the metal culvert from the engineer's office. I have reworded that to say that they may be purchased from our office, and then kind of, if they don't want to purchase it from us, maybe what the stipulations for what that metal culvert is. And you'll see that if you would accept the new one that I've written here, along with just a permit that shows what people would fill out.
Yeah. I'll move to receive.
Second.
Motion by Binger, second by Nelson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0. Yeah, it'd be probably easier to look at these. Do you have one, how many did you say?
Sorry, I'd only found one. I must have left the rest at my
Okay.
office. I apologize.
Okay, that's all right.
Is there any other questions on that?
Did you look at it? Pass it back down this way.
Is there gonna be a list of approved contractors, or just anybody they can find, or what are you thinking? there?
I was hoping that we would do it, I put in there that we would do a pre-approved contractor, and I don't think that we're really gonna restrict people. It's more, if you can't do our job, I don't want you on a list that people should be reaching out to you.
Sure.
I want them done right, so we don't have to come in and correct them.
Okay, okay. All right, any questions or comments from the board members? I don't know, it makes sense that we have this policy and we get out of that business and,
Thank you.
yeah, have our employees doing what's critical, infrastructure, yeah.
And, you know, this is a result of having your budget capped by new legislation, and so we're trying to find creative ways to keep rock and concrete bridges on roads, so it's not anything that we woke up wanting to do, it just part of the climate we're in, but I would move approval of this new policy.
All right.
Second.
Motion by Nelson, second by Dietrich. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. All right, next up here is wow. Everybody okay out there? I know. Gonna have that it's all right, it's all right. All right, last up on the agenda is budget review discussion for fiscal year '26. We're gonna start off just with kind of a review, and so we'll turn it over to Auditor Scaff.
Microphones hate to see me coming.
All right, we'll give Michelle a minute here. And so I want to say, first of all, thank you to Ryan and Michelle for your hard work, and Tina, too, during this budget season and working with the board. And so Ryan, you should be an expert by next month, right, on us? So we are glad to see you getting up to speed on everything. So go ahead, Michelle, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so what I have in front of you is the document that we've been sharing every week. So the budget publication, I believe that was sent out today. So the budget publication was sent out today with the adoption of the budget set for 4/29, so the last meeting in April. It needs to be adopted by the 30th, so that's our last possible date to adopt the budget. And we set the time at 4:45 on that date. In the budget publication notice, as we stand with the motions in the past budget hearings, we're at a maximum now that we've dropped a little bit from our original mailing that we sent out. This column F here is our original mailing, and the changes made are on column G. Column H would be if the levies were held the same as they were last year. So if we scroll down here, you can see what the levies would be. With the current publication going out, the countywide levy for urban areas would be 7.19497, and for the rural areas is 9.68806. So you can see in the next column what our original levy was from last year. If we scroll over to the document that we shared with the public at our hearing last week, you can see that the effect of this would be $11.72 per $100,000 in an urban area, and $18.15 per $100,000 in a rural area, additional compared to what it was. So
Okay.
changes since last week that affected the levy would be the reduction in some training revenue we found in EMS that was not budgeted, which increased a slight amount in the general basic fund. The EMS paramedics freeze was added, which I guess I'm kind of scrolled down a little too far here, so we're starting out with the rural supplemental. So the rural supplemental has those changes, and then if we go up to the, general supplemental, if we go back up to the general basic, the green highlighted areas here are the changes since the last meeting. Conservation has offered to put a freeze on 12 positions, and that total is here. That includes, I think, 6 seasonal individuals and 6 other individuals.
Yeah, both are 12 seasons.
Okay, so that was included in that beginning balance in the changes, even though our general basic is held to a specific levy, it's going to reduce our deficit. We had a correction on the room and board, which was just an error in calculating the 55% that the county receives. We were calculating that based on the wrong GL line for the revenue. And then work comp liability has been increased due to some analysis with HR, and so we had to increase that amount by $150,000. So our remaining deficit is at 1.781. In the columns F and H over here are some proposed changes that the board has not looked at yet. We have a possibility that I had mentioned in a past meeting of shifting 50% of the auditor my wages from general basic to general supplemental, since general supplemental is where elections is paid out of, and a large amount of my duties involve elections. If we don't move all of the FICA over, I had some figures in the past of 600 and some thousand, which would have given us a balanced general supplemental. So that number can be played around with to offset that a little bit. So we reduced it to 400 in a meeting last week just to see what would happen to our balances. And then we go down to general supplemental. You can see the offset of moving the auditor's wages, half of those to the general supplemental, and not moving all of the FICA in the amount of 400. The pilot dollars that we have in the cash balance can be moved to, and I put those in the general supplemental as a potential. We can really move those anywhere. So that was $29,915 in our balances. And then the courthouse maintenance, which I believe is on the agenda today, is $200,000 balance in that fund, which is, you're able to move that anywhere, whether it be supplemental or basic. So if those changes were made, that would actually put us in the good in the general supplemental. The other areas, we do not have any changes. So if we look at our beginning balances and what we've done with the beginning balances, Ryan assessed some of the payrolls and was working with the departments to confirm some of these figures. So the attorney's payroll potentially has $550,000 that was unspent that will increase the beginning balances. The sheriff's and building services kind of offset each other. And then there was an insurance shortfall that has been recognized that about probably $400,000 to $600,000 is going to need to be used to increase the insurance fund so that we're compliant with having 1.2 million in there for our insurance self-liability.
Yep.
So we plugged in 500, kind of the average of the 4 to 6 on that, which will change the beginning balances. The general supplemental, there's a $225,000 amount recognized in payroll that was unexpended. And then in the rural basic, 25,000 in the sheriff's unspent payroll. Do you know if anybody has confirmed those numbers to?
The attorney has, but due to that accrual that you mentioned last week, the attorney's office is like 515,000. So we probably, should reduce that one to 500. And the
Okay.
sheriff's department, Jennifer is out on vacation this week, so I've been unable to confirm the amounts with her.
Okay. So if we look at our reserves versus expenses, in this lower box here, all of the changes that are made to the beginning balances are reflected in both of these tables. And in this bottom table, it reflects the changes that are proposed in column F and G after the budget hearings. If those were all made, our ending reserve balances would be 17.01 at the end of fiscal year 26 in general basic, 11.2 in general supplemental, and 14.4 in rural basic. The top reflects if those changes were not made in those other two columns that you haven't considered yet. We also group together funds 1 and 2 to just kind of look at it together, since those can kind of fluctuate back and forth. So if you look at them together, the 2-month expenses needed for Fund 1 and 2 that we've kind of been talking about throughout the budget season is this amount here, 8.9 million. And at the start of the fiscal, let's see, what's this one here? At the end of the fiscal year, this is the amount that is anticipated to be in the reserves with everything taken into consideration, which puts us $721,000 short of having the 2-month balance at the end of the fiscal year in the general plus general sup. And then in the rural plus rural sup, same scenario, 104,000. If you'd want me to share the payroll yet, or do you want to hold
Oh, no,
off
go
on
ahead.
that?
Why don't you go ahead and do that, yeah, before we
Okay.
dive into these 2 action items, yeah.
Okay. If you want to take one of these and pass it on.
Joshua, do we need to receive this?
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, I'll move to receive.
Second.
Motion by Bittinger, second by Nelson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0.
So in looking at some of the things that have been asked of me to calculate on the payroll for wage plan and elected officials, we all know that elected officials cannot be cut or, motions until the final adoption, which is on the 29th. But this is just information so that you can see the figures that have been asked of me. So, wage plan was plugged in at a 3%. The compensation committee gave the auditor 4%, the treasurer 4%, the attorney 8.5%, and the sheriff 5%. So this calculates out different scenarios for each of those groups. So if the scenario types are, if the group went to 0%, if the group went to 2%, if the group went to 1% on July 1st and then 1% on January 1st, if the group went to 2% on July 1st and then 1% on January 1st, and if the group went to 1% on July 1st and then 2% on January 1st. For the elected officials, it also has a scenario where the elected official would be at 3%, which is equivalent to what the wage plan is. And then in your columns B through E, it shows the fund effect of those changes for all four of the funds that we use for payroll. If you go to the bottom table, it has the totals. So the total change if all groups went to 0%, you can see the financial impact of that. If all groups went to 1% in July and 1% more in January, and so forth. So I don't know if you're making motions on this tonight for wage plan, but this is, if there's other scenarios you want, you know, it's all very easy for us to apply those and include those on this table as well.
No, thank you, Michelle, for putting this together and bringing this to the board. My thoughts, before we get into these two agenda items, my thoughts are for wage plan to look at that next week. Give us a week to review this, think about it, ask any questions, or any supervisors need to follow up with Ryan or Michelle on that. And of course, like you said, we'll deal with elected official once we officially adopt the budget and approve it. Couple items just to, so the board's, well, for the budget. One thing I'll bring up is the health fund. After we officially adopt the budget, I'm going to bring a budget amendment that would, in essence, move any unspent hospitalization funds over into the self-liability health fund, just to make sure we can make sure we have meet that percentage we need to. It's under, is that Iowa code, Melissa, or was that just? I want to make sure I don't misspeak on that, but is that
Iowa code 509A.
509A? Okay. Yep. So yeah, I'm going to bring a budget amendment just to help us move over some of those unspent hospitalization funds to help us get that funded. So with that, let's dive in here to these and then we can keep talking. Item A for myself is just approval of the transfer of courthouse maintenance fund balance to general reserves for fiscal year 26. You can see it in your backup. And Ryan, correct me, we have 200,000 in there, right? We have I think 200,000. Michelle, do you know exact amount we have in there?
It is.
Yes, it's
Exactly
200.
200,000, okay. So yeah,
It didn't accrue any interest because we just set it aside.
It's not an interest-bearing fund, the interest is all in other funds where the treasurer places that.
Okay.
That's just a straight 200 that was transferred there. The money does receive interest, but it's not posted to that specific fund.
Okay.
gotcha.
Is the recommendation to move it to general basic or
We can,
general basic reserves?
yeah, I mean, we can make that motion, yeah.
See where I had it in this table.
Tina?
Just to clarify on the interest, I mean, the county does earn interest on the money. I don't want the general public to think that we have it in a non-interest bearing account.
Okay.
But the interest is not allocated specifically to that fund, so any interest earned on that goes to the general basic fund.
Thank you.
In the scenarios that I presented, I place that in general supplemental, but it isn't required that you place it there.
Would you recommend general supplemental?
I think that the board should determine what they want the end reserve to be in order to make the decisions on where to place it. You know, our general supplemental fund balance was very low, and this, helped increase it a little bit.
Right. I mean, I agree with you, Michelle. I think looking at the scenario, I think for the board, that second scenario with the fund balances, reserve balances, I think that's what we would want to strive for. So, yeah, Matthew, I would be fine with moving to general basic. I don't know what the supervisors think, but I would
General.
make,
It was general
general
supplemental.
supplement, excuse me.
Okay.
Excuse me, sorry, I misspoke, I apologize.
I'll move to transfer 200,000 from the courthouse maintenance fund to general supplemental reserves for FY '26.
Second it. All right, motion by Young, second by Bittenger. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. All right.
Can you just confirm, you said for fiscal year '26, so you
Yes.
would like the transfer made after July? That's fine, that's what I'm understanding, and it,
That was Mr. Binger's motion here,
Okay.
proposed.
Okay.
So
Yes.
if
Okay.
that's
Yep,
still good, then yes.
very
Yeah.
good.
yep. All right, item B is just the approval of additional hiring freezes for fiscal year '26. You can see in your backup, Conservation Department, we have 12 seasonal positions. And so thank you, Dan Heisel, for working on that. Thank you for helping us out and looking at your budgets. Appreciate all the elected officials and department heads doing that. And so, as you can see in the backup, that'd be a total savings of $105,099.42. And so I'll make that motion to defund but not deauthorize those conservation 12 seasonal positions for fiscal year '26 budget.
Second.
Okay. All right, motion by Binger, second by Carper. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0. And then,
Yeah, I'd like to bring up, we've got one open maintenance position in building services, and that was one that we had added for the LEC, and I think at this time, given our budget restraints, I think we're gonna have to see the money first at the LEC before we can bring this position back. It's gonna be needed if we get up in that 150, 175 federal inmate level, but obviously, we're not there right now. So I would move to freeze but not deauthorize the current open maintenance position in building services.
second that. Motion by Nelson, second by Bittenger. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0. We've already mentioned the health fund. Item C is just miscellaneous review and action, and thank you, Joshua, for making sure we got this correct on the, so going forward now, we can make any type of action. If anything we find in the meeting, we can take action on, so. With that said, Michelle, can you put up that spreadsheet again? Oh, there, thank you. It would seem going off that bottom reserve level that it would make sense to make these changes in columns F and G. But as a board, we can, if we want to review that, think about it, we can bring that back next week and vote on that. Or if anyone feels like they want to do that tonight, but we still have 2 more meetings. So my goal was be next week to bring back wage plan, and then on the it's the 29th, is that Tuesday, right? 29th, we will deal with elected official pay and handle that there, but that's all that I have for tonight.
Michelle, can you click on the reserve versus expenses tab there? So we can see that. So in this one right in front of us, this is figuring all the raises for elected officials and all 3% for all the wage plan, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So that would leave us about 17% in the general basic reserves, 11% general sup, and 14.5 for rural basic.
Good question.
Are these numbers of 721 and 104 updated with what we've done?
It's updated with everything, including what you have not done in this column here. So the pilot dollars haven't been determined where to move those. the auditor, splitting those wages between the two, and then the amount of FICA if you choose not to move it all into the general sup.
Okay. Well, we did the courthouse maintenance, let's move
Yes.
the PILT dollars then to general sup.
Yes, that's where it is in this scenario.
Okay.
Any issue with that?
Yep. Any issue, discussion? All right, I'll second that motion.
Okay, I moved it.
Motion by Young, second by Bittenger. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0. I would motion then that 50% auditor change to general sup. I mean, I would make the motion to go and move that over.
Second.
All right. Motion by Bittenger, second by Nelson. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0. And then with the FICA there, I would approve to not, Michelle, what's the right wording would you want for this? Not to move all the FICA? In the amount of 400,000, what would be the right wording?
If you want to wait
Wait, okay.
on that one, so you can determine what the specific amount will be, if you
Sure.
want to do that or
Okay.
not, because that one, you have, over $1 million that you could do something with.
Okay.
So depending on where you want those to end up at the end,
Okay.
we can fluctuate that number a little bit more.
Thank you.
Moving from which fund to which fund again?
Would be moving
General
from
basic.
general basic to general sub.
Okay.
Yeah, so right now in the budget, we've budgeted for moving the entire amount of the benefits from general basic to general sup. And if we don't move that entire amount, then that can, change those balances.
Okay, so reverting back, add to general basic costs, okay. Are you able to update the ending balances, assuming we don't do that? So we can see the need?
Okay.
Okay, here's the updated. So that drops your sup to 8.86.
Got it.
Could we plug in some of those motions that we just had passed and see what that?
They're
those already
already
reflected?
included
Oh,
in
okay.
here.
Okay.
Including the one maintenance position?
No, I don't have the figures for that position. If we have, we could kind of we could make up a number just to kind of plug in there. Do you know about what that is, Kenny, for maintenance person compared to like a clerk two?
Are you looking for an all-in number?
Yeah, well, just basically pay and benefits.
Probably 60.
So if we just plug in 80,
Okay.
that brings your general basic up to 18. So, and keep in mind, here's your dollar needed to change 1%. So 386,000 will change your reserve by 1%.
Did you take, I know you did.
Oh, come on up. Yeah, come on up. You're good.
Dan Heisel, Conservation. You were talking about unspent wages at the end of the year. I think my department's figured 65 to 70. And you didn't mention that. Did you have that in there?
I didn't receive those figures from anyone. Is
Okay,
that something that,
My apologies, but our guesstimates with all the stuff we had going on and people not starting and on the right time, and that we should have close to 65 to 70 left. So if you went with 65, it would give you a starting, but that's another,
Yeah.
every little bit helps, so want to make sure you knew.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Dan.
I'll get those figures to you.
okay.
Appreciate that. Okay. All right.
So that probably improves the amount we're short in general basic for the 2 month from 741 to maybe 680, 670, 50, okay.
50, we can plug in 50 just as a placeholder there, and, yeah, there, you're at 591 now.
Yeah.
Here's your total.
And we did confirm that reserves from one could be used in another, or no? Like, could we cover the shortfall in reserves for the second row here with the first row?
We can look that up.
Well,
Or do you know, Michelle, off the top of your head? Do you?
you're talking about from like row 19 to row 18?
Yeah,
No, I don't believe you can do that, because those are specific purposes, and the Fund 11 are creating the rural levy. And so if you shift that out of there, those
okay,
are rural services that are for the rural area that's in that fund.
okay,
But 11 and 12, you know, that's flexible because of
Mm-hmm.
what we're moving. We don't have to move everything to 12, and 1 and 2, you don't have to move everything to 2. So that's where you got a little bit of flexibility in there.
okay.
Now, if the sheriff decided that he had some people that were not working in rural patrol, but instead in regular uniform patrol, then that would shift an employee position that maybe isn't being allocated in the area, then that can move those around as well.
Michelle, have we stuck in there the unspent funds from HR? Salary and
I'm
benefits?
not sure what unspent, for payroll?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. Ryan, is that one that you had supplied, or?
I'll get the number here.
It is not plugged in,
Okay,
so no.
we can add that one. That would be good. That'll help. We'll let Ryan do his magic over there.
I would conservatively say 50,000. Because right now I calculate 71, but I don't have the accrual.
Okay.
And it's $10,000 per payroll, so the accrual is about 5,700 of that. So we're looking at 60, so I would say, just to be conservative, 50.
Unless we have an idea on the table to get rid of the shortfall in the rural levies, we could move one deputy back to the general levies. That would take care of most of it. At least we would handle that one and focus our efforts on general.
Basic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless there's another option. I mean, it's up to us. I mean, it's really impossible to quantify the work they do on a daily basis for one versus another constituency, but we're at a, division right now where we could justify it. I mean, it's not like 90-10,
Yeah, that makes sense.
You want to make a motion for that?
Yeah. Do we, I guess, when we've done this in the past, which particular employee have we have we moved? I mean, is it,
I think you'd probably have to consult with the sheriff before doing a motion like that, because it's the duties of the sheriffs assigning them to do certain things because of that, and you don't want to short something that's out there, so.
okay,
I can,
let's make that request.
yeah, I'll do that, yep, I'll reach out to sheriff, yep.
Maybe next week we can take care of most of that 104. It'll go up to add to the 541, but we'll take care of that one.
Right. Do you want to shift that to which general? Do you have any, does it matter? In
General base.
General basic, okay. No, thank you, Matthew. Okay, I'll work on that. Okay. Anything else regarding the budget? Thank you, Michelle, for the updates, and Ryan, we'll keep working. We'll get this, I'll talk with the sheriff, we'll look at that. Health fund, like we said, we'll bring that budget adoption budget amendment, excuse me, after the budget adoption about the health fund, unused hospitalization. So, okay. All right. With that, let's move on. Now, through the discussion, we'll move on to item 10, reports on committee meetings, if there's any. The only, I had none, but the only thing I have is last Wednesday I was at the Capitol again and did get to speak to a couple of legislators about pushing back against House File 718 and this new property tax amendment, and just saying that we need more county input and please speak to the supervisors. So it was received, but we'll see where that goes. But that's all that I had.
Speaking of the Capitol, I guess, in regards to the carbon pipeline bill that the House passed here a week, 10 days ago. So the House passed a bill that eminent domain cannot be used for carbon pipelines, similar to what was passed in South Dakota and ultimately signed there. So the House passed it pretty overwhelmingly, but the Senate is really not too keen on it. So there was one senator that was planning on adding some amendments that would really water down the House bill and ultimately make it not effective. And our Woodbury County Rural Senator Kevin Alons yesterday was able to put in an amendment prior to this other senator's amendments that he wanted to get in and stop that. And so the bill is still very much alive from the House's version. And so I think there's a lot of people that are very appreciative of what Kevin has done on that, and he's been down there fighting. You know, this board has done a lot, so it's nice that we've got other elected officials in the county that are helping us with that, but that was a pretty major thing yesterday. So we'll keep cheering him on and others and see what happens.
So I talked with Kevin this morning. He said he's catching a lot of fire for that.
He is.
But rightfully so. I think it was the right thing to do, and that amendment was pretty horrible.
Yep, and so, I texted Kevin, because I heard that too, that there was a pretty heated exchange from this other senator that was trying to thwart this bill. And so I think it's important that when there's folks that are doing what constituents want and taking flack for and doing the right thing, that we reach out and support them, tell them thanks and cheer them on. So he's doing a great job.
Yep. All right, any other committee reports?
So there was a Veterans Commission meeting last week, which I was unable to attend it, but I had a phone call from the board chair for the commission. One of the things that was discussed, and he discussed with me, and it'll be something that'll come up here in the future, that location of the Veterans Commission out there obviously kind of brings in, I mean, they've had some issues with people coming into the building and using the facilities and stuff like that, and it's kind of an ongoing trend. They were talking about, the possibility of getting some sort of security cameras or possibly a push button like the schools have to let people in or see if they have an appointment. But they have to kind of, be mindful of people with walk-in appointments or just walking in as well. So one of the things I kind of mentioned as well, though, do we need to look at possibly moving them to another facility, but then we have to be mindful of veterans that are handicapped and wheelchairs and stuff like that, accessibility and different things. So they're gonna look in the near term at some security cameras. Maybe in the long term, maybe we can look for, possibly relocating them as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you. You did. All right, with that, moving on, no other, all right. We'll move on to citizens' concerns. Any citizen concerns? All right. Moving on to, oh, come on, Laura.
Hello. I won't be here next week, so I just at least, I don't have a compensation board representative as not an elected position. And so I don't really, know when Secondary Roads gets to voice their, proposal on what we would like to see for raises for our non-union, employees in Secondary Roads. And so I'd like to do that right now, if that's all right? All right.
Sure.
So, as you know, Secondary Roads union employees are receiving a 3% raise this year. I believe that is a perfect raise. It's in good faith. When you see our CPR, our customer price index at 2.7, which I always feel in the Midwest is a very conservative number. I don't believe that it is 2.7. I believe it is probably higher, but they set it at 2.7. Possibly, employees might be looking at, a little bit of health insurance increase that reduces their take-home pay. So I feel that a 3% increase for all Secondary Roads employees is a very good number. These non-union employees have done amazing things already in my first couple months here. They have found us cost savings, and now we're taking those cost savings and applying them to other things. Let's see here, what else do I want to say? Beyond that, I think that they're great employees, and I don't think 0%, a 1% is justifiable. I believe that the 3% that the union employees got is justifiable number for the Secondary Roads employees that are non-union. So, thank you.
All right, thanks, Laura. All right, come on forward. Yep, come up to the mic, sir. Just, name and address.
Dennis McCall. I just get a little nervous every time I drive by my dike. I know that you fellas probably don't care. It's on my property though, but that berm is falling in as we speak. And actually, I'm getting so that I would just like to get permission from the board or somebody, the Corps, to let me fix it. And if you don't have no money, let me try it. And I know they gotta have the proper directions from them, gotta have permission for them, but they have no money to do anything. But I get a little nervous. I live there and I drive by every day, and it's falling in every day. And that big berm was replaced by the county originally, and it's gonna go out if we get high water again. Anyway, I'd like to just get permission to do something myself. Maybe Miss Severs, or are you still on the committee, Mark?
For Secondary Roads?
No, for drainage.
No, that's not me. I'm on the Soil Water Conservation Board, but we don't do anything with the
Nothing to do
levies.
with drainage. Well, another thing, I might just mention, all this drainage tax that I pay is fine and dandy, but all the water comes from behind me. And apparently this law was made 100 years ago or something. So why wouldn't those people, if you want to get more taxes or drainage from them people, why don't you charge them a little bit of drainage? The people all behind me. They don't pay no drainage, but all their water, the water comes through my farm. It's just a thought, and I don't know where that law came from, a long time ago. But it's probably an antique by now. Anyway, I'd like to just see if we could get some permission from the Corps to do something. That's what I'm after.
Yeah, after the meeting, if you can stay till after the meeting, let me get with you and Laura, and we'll
All right, thank you.
we'll begin to
Thanks, Dennis.
see if we can address that, Dennis, yep. Thank you for coming. All right, with that, let's move on here. Board concerns, I have one. Yesterday, Supervisor Nelson and I and Melissa had a meeting with the IMWCA, which is the Iowa Municipal Workers, what's the? Compensation Association, thank you. Regarding our workman's comp, it's a mouthful. I love all these acronyms in county government.
We need like a shortcut card.
Yeah.
You know, it's yeah,
Yeah.
so many.
We met because our workman's comp policy is going up over $150,000 going up for the next fiscal year due to injuries on the job. And so we met with them to institute a 2-year plan to help with just safety meetings and making sure all our department heads, elected officials, making sure that employees are following safety protocols, just being wise, just to bring that down. We need to bring that down to make sure we keep our affordable workman's comp insurance. And so with that, next week I'll be bringing to the board just the agreement we'll sign with them, and they want to work with us. Most of them are former county employees, and they've been they understand for the most part, and so we're going to work with them to help keep us coverage and also bring our premium down. So I'll have that next week, formal agreement for us to sign, and thank you, Melissa, for beginning to work on that and making sure we have the right documentation and working with all of our leaders just to make sure we practice safety. So that's all that I had.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
I just have a concern on this worksheet we received. Just want to make sure the board doesn't send a confusing message for next week. I don't know if there's been any decisions made on which path we're going with as far as 6-month versus non-6-month, but
Yeah, nothing been decided, no.
okay, well,
Yeah,
it's on here. I mean, it's a good thought experiment, sure, but I think that if the board is gonna go down this road, we are gonna be opening a can of worms again and again and again. It's not gonna stop. When the board approved the attorney's MOU, which granted 6-month increases, which Melissa and I found was not done anywhere else in the state, the board majority was pretty clear that was a one-off, that's not going to be replicated. But I see it on this sheet, so it's a little concerning. If we're going to break it down half and half, these numbers also do prove that it increases the cost to the county by doing that, when that was kind of sold to the board as a no big deal sort of thing. And then also I see instead of, cutting it in half, some of these proposals are 1% July, 2% January, or 2% July, 1% January. I'm just cautioning the board, if we go down this road, especially with our ability now to separate out elected officials individually, I mean, if we have the auditor getting a 6-month 2 and 1, and the treasurer getting a 1 year at 3, and the attorney getting a 6-month at, 0 and 2 or 1 and 2, I mean, the amount of confusion that's going to breed is going to result in a pretty crazy hodgepodge of wage increases. So we budget annually for a reason. We have an annual budget. We don't have a 6-month budget. And what we did in the past was for the prior fiscal year and the fiscal year upcoming, this is July and January, so it's in the same fiscal year. So I don't really see the need, in my opinion, to be parsing these out like this. It just seems like I'm not going to say it's not transparent because the numbers are right here, but it seems like a way to just conceptualize making, for example, 2% actually mean more than 2%. So I would just like to see any proposals send a consistent message, which is either everyone's going to 6-month and we're going to be a pioneer in the space across the state, or we're just going to stick with annual budgeting because that's what counties do.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Mr. Chair, if
Yeah.
I can,
Yeah.
I do want to take ownership of this because I'm the one who said, hey, maybe we give 1% in July and 1% in January. That way that will save the county some money and still give the employees the benefit of having a higher percentage for half of the year. And that was my reasoning behind that. The reasoning also was in the last 20-year analysis, this has been done with the county wage plan and elected officials one time, and so that was the reference that I had for it. And I understand your reasoning behind that. And the attorneys, I believe what happened with them is that they approved that increase in January after the budget had already been approved, which increased their budget, although they did have unexpended amounts. So there was a difference in that scenario because it was outside of the budget time frame, and it was giving them a increase prior to the fiscal year starting.
Yeah, no, duly noted, that's good. Yeah, this was just, just to put some before us, but definitely hear you. Supervisor on, that's good. Yep.
I think the bigger question, Matthew, on these raises is that we're faced with after all the work that we've done, we're still 2 million short. Most of it in general basic, some in general sup. And so if we use reserves, that's fine. But I guess the question ultimately is going to come down to the five of us is, does it make sense to raise wages and cut staff? I mean, to me, I just don't know that makes sense. But that is what we're ultimately faced with. The reserves are barely enough, in my opinion. The health fund didn't help, but if we have people using that, they use it. That's what happens. And inflation is rampant in the health sector right now too, so. But I think that's ultimately what we have to think about going forward, because a lot of our departments can only operate with so many people. And so I don't think we can get down to a point where we've got 2 really high-paid people in a department that needs 10 to operate. That doesn't, work, right? So that's the ultimate hard decision that we're gonna have to make in the coming weeks.
Okay. All right, anything else for the good of the cause?
I've got one.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a call last night from a constituent, and he lives in town, he lives in a rural community. He runs a successful business. His wife runs a separate successful business out of that town, and he actually needs more room to operate his business out of, and he needs a large shop to get that done. And so him and his wife had bought some land outside of town, and they want to build the shop and then build a new home right there and move out to the country. And he called to get a permit and found out that we have a zoning is that you cannot build what is called a secondary structure, like a machine shed or a shop or a garage or whatever the case may be, until you have a house on the property. And I just think that is just, that's just, we're closed for business, in my opinion. Now, for farmers, that doesn't count, because there's really no zoning on farming, so I could just take a bare 40, build a machine shed on it, build a cattle barn on it, build a grain bin on it, whatever. And I think that this is something that they want to do, but it's just, he needs the space now. He's got contractors that can build a shed now or a shop now. The home, they're several months out before any construction can start, so he was wanting to get the ball rolling, just to find out that we do not allow secondary structures to be built before a primary structure. And so I'm going to I didn't have a chance to visit with Dan Priestley today about it, but most likely next week on the agenda or one of these other weeks, I'm going to bring something forward. And I would like zoning to look at this so that we change it, because any type of construction, especially in the rural areas, is a net positive for the county. For taxpayer, I don't care what it is. If they want to build a sheet shed, I don't care. I was just really disappointed, and he was disappointed to learn that too. And these buildings are not cheap anymore. I mean, you build any significant kind of a machine shed, you're looking at a shop, you're looking at $250,000 to $500,000. And so, and then you're running power to that. And so then there's further development that can happen or happen in that area, because REC's maybe got a transformer there now that there wasn't one before, that they can build something across the road. So anyway, I'm going to visit with Dan this week, and I'm hoping that next week or the week after I'll have an agenda item that we can, if the board would like to give some guidance to zoning to look at this, because I just think that that's wrong, and we need to be pro-growth and pro-development in the rural parts of the county and in our towns and cities, so. Thank you.
Can they take that before the zoning board?
Yeah, so that's what I'm hoping, is that we can maybe, it's given that it's April, maybe if we get something going now and zoning wants to change that, or we change it, that he could get something built yet this summer, because if, I think they were looking at a home maybe getting started late fall, but we all know contractors get pushed back, so then it might be next spring on the home part of it. But I told him, I said, I think that we can fast track that and look for some changes, but I was just really shocked by that,
Right.
honestly. Any construction's good construction, you know, they buy rock, they hire contractors, there's
Right.
buildings, they're adding value to property. So anyway,
Okay.
just found that interesting.
Sounds good. Yeah, that's interesting. Yes, Supervisor Carver.
Just the last thing, minor thing, Iowa State University Extension Outreach is offering, planning and zoning officials, a workshop, and, you have to sign up by April 14th. I was interested in looking at that, but what I don't know is there a cost for this, for the board? I'll look into that and talk to Mr. Priestley about it, so.
And just one quick update, I forgot, the frontage road in Mobile that we gave money to, that project got started last year, and then they had to stop because of weather, and it has started back up again. So, they had taken all the concrete out of the intersection going to the fairgrounds, which that's been a terrible intersection for a very long time. When they get that done, then they'll finish the other portion going back west, so good to see that going again.
All right, with that, all right, thank you, everyone. This means adjourned.